So we've been here every week for four years, and a whole lot of us. And I think it has brought a whole new way to have community and be in community and to be with other people who say the things we say, about the stuff that we can talk about freely and comfortably here, with metaphysical ideas and things that are perhaps very outside the box. And we don't often have other people we can just freely talk about some of the things, like, as an example, talking to trees, or, things that, that people think, no, you can't talk to a tree. It's like, well, absolutely.
Yes, you can.
And they talk back. So I know that's a lightweight version of here. But we have a really nice place that the weird is normal. So we're happy for that.
And the normal is normal.
And the normal is normal.
Talking about our salt grinders.
Yes. Well, and we do call it real life Reiki, because that is what it's about. And, those of you that have been attending for a long time, and those of you that are brand new or just kind of getting to step into the community, we really talk about the practicalities, and we think in terms of applied spirituality. And spirituality is your own, whatever that means to you. That can be as much in the sciences as any other. There's no required belief system. At the same time, I know the belief system that I have, or the experiences I have with Reiki, have definitely taken me into an expanded experience of this reality. That there are shifts in consciousness that we can be in while we're in our everyday real life. And so that's really what we talk about. And since we have things that show up with Robyn and I and our team, Danny and Teresa can be part of that. And some of you guys, you bring in the different ideas and thoughts and the things that are themes that are going on. So this time we have been talking, we started with the eagle and mouse vision journey, discovering your unique path and seeing it clearly. And then moving it into authenticity. So how to get there, because those are great words, but it's also clarity is one of the biggest challenges. Like, what does that mean? What is my unique path? How do I see it? And what does that mean? And what if it's different than I think it is? Then what? And so we've been talking about authenticity, and we spent, one of the weeks on success consciousness. And what does that mean for you? What's authentic for you? And what is your path with your success consciousness? And I know for me, the other thing that I talk about with all of these is that they are actual streams of energy. So success consciousness is an energy that you can actually tap into with Reiki. So you can, all of the symbols work for it. For me, it's very much in that mental emotional system, symbol SHK. In Corona, NOSA really is one of them that helps you identify those meaningful things within you, and then the energy of them, and being able to transcend kind of what the common idea of that definition of what is success, and then how do you reach inside you to find out the authentic meaning of it for you. So we investigated that. And if you haven't been in any of these, first of all, it's, it comes in every week. So it's okay if you don't feel like you need to go back and do any of it, but you can always find like the journeys that we do and the talks we do about some of those subjects on our YouTube channel. So also, we've been working with other ideas of authenticity. And right now we're very aware that there have been really big life changes for a lot of people. And people are going through endings and going through new beginnings. Sometimes the endings haven't ended yet. The new beginnings haven't started. Sometimes it's like it feels like the endings are here, but the new beginnings started back here and they go back and forth. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm in the new beginning, and then the endings still come back in a little bit. And then sometimes you'll move completely into the next cycle and you're in the new beginnings. And the completion of those endings now is you're in a deeper place of reflection and using Reiki for that to help you understand it and where you've been and where you're headed. So, and we know we've talked about Pluto moving into Aquarius and the effects on life transitions and change with that transit. So we've really been going over this authenticity subject for kind of a couple months, wouldn't you say, Robyn?
I think about the beginning of January, so going on six weeks. But we had the Pluto in there, we had the burning bowl in there, so right around there.
Yeah.
So, well, I just wanted to go back, Colleen, to kind of what you were talking about at the beginning with us being together for 4 years, and so many of us being here, week to week. Obviously we all miss some and things like that, but there's many of us that are here a lot of the time, and us all going through our own life cycles in these 4 years, and then the cycle of, as we fractal that out, extrapolate that out to the cycles of all of the things that we've been experiencing over the last 4 years, obviously. And with you, talking about it being, the name of the business is Reiki Lifestyle, right? Which indicates the intention of how do you live in your lifestyle, being able to use Reiki energy, being able to use your spiritual practices in your everyday life, because that is a part of what we do. We use it in all facets of our lives, and not just the challenging parts, that too, but also in the exciting parts, in the joyous parts, in the expansion pieces. And what also comes with that for you and I is, for the most time, for the most part, us also, you and I and Danny, and needing to be authentic of where we're at as well, because we're humans. And while we definitely, try to keep these circles and these spaces free of a lot of the things that are discussed these days, we also, aside from that, we also share a lot of what we're kind of going through at the time. Or maybe if we feel like we are keeping it more personal, it's not hard to necessarily tell that we might be going through things, or the conversations that we talk about might be how we are personally navigating it at that time, because it is what is going on in our life. And as you were talking, it kind of made me realize that another piece of this is also getting to decide what you want to share and what you don't want to share. and that you do have that choice within your own authenticity. It's not necessarily, and that's going to vary to degrees based on how close people are to you. It's going to vary from you and I sharing versus me sharing with a circle versus me sharing with, a larger group like this. So there is that piece of it, is that also gets to be within your authenticity, because we are all going to be going through different cycles in our life. And as you said, right now, there's many changes for a lot of people as there's completions and new beginnings. But how do you get to use it in all of the time frames that you're in? When you're navigating challenging things, when you're, I know I've shared with this group often enough that, when you're experiencing really challenging health issues. As a mother, there's a lot of cycles that I'm continually going through with me in motherhood and familyhood, and having a young child. And there is also the times, and how do you use Reiki to navigate that? And that's something that we talk about. Those are some of the things that we have shared of, like, when things are in the depths, how are you using these practices? How are you using these tools or community to help support you through those? And there is also the maybe you're not in the depths, maybe you're not in those times, maybe you're in just big changes, like you're in, Colleen, of how, this is a really big life change for you with dad retiring. And maybe it's not, like where you're in, I don't want to say not challenging, because it has its challenging, but it's not those really big challenging things like we think of. And so, how you're navigating those life cycle changes, but then also navigating it through the joyous times, those times when things feel fun and easy, and how Reiki can expand your mind, expand your practices, because it's really easy to go outside and connect with the tree, where it's really easy to have and experience fun. And that can be an expansive cycle as well in its own way. And so I think that there is this idea of, as we are a community, as we are sharing our lives of the authenticity through each of our own cycles, and how we're using Reiki to navigate it all, depending on what we're in, and how does everybody else do that. And, those kinds of conversations, those kinds of topics. And I really just love the idea that, there's still things that we don't share. There's things that we choose not to share. And that doesn't mean that we're less authentic. It's actually more authentic for me, because, it's not like I feel like my voice is stifled. It's where I'm choosing to spend my time when I have only so much time to share with people that are outside of myself. And so for me, that's it. And that's going to be different for everybody. There's not a wrong or a right with that. That's going to be different for everybody. And so it is authentic to me to discern where with those different topics and different conversations, and how and what I also am choosing to share in our different cycles. So that was just a really interesting thought, Colleen, as you were talking. And honestly, I couldn't find the outline. I don't know where you put it. It wasn't in the folder that I thought it was going to be in. So I have no idea what we're what?
It wasn't there.
Okay. So I don't know actually what we're supposed to be talking about other than the broader topic, if I'm honest. I know you did all this work. Sorry.
Well, being authentic. So here's the scoop. We are always, we're always listening for new ways to do things. And so we decided, I don't know, quite a while ago, that we would actually start planning what we would talk about in the distance Reiki shares. And And then they're always just organic. So it's never like, oh, I'm following a script or anything like that, as you can tell. So anyway, I think maybe a couple months ago, we decided, okay, we're going to get good at this, and it's going to be in a file, in a folder, and we're going to have things put together. We're going to be so organized. And, so
Then we put Colleen in charge of the organization.
yeah. So I was supposed to put the outline in the file and told her yesterday, oh, I've got time. I'll do it. No.
She didn't have,
and it's okay because we,
fine. Yeah.
we only, it's loosely followed anyway, but I want to comment on this, which is completely different than what's we would have put in the outline, because we've talked about this before from a practitioner standpoint. One of the things that I see for people, even in their own authenticity and seeing themselves, is that piece of visibility and invisibility. And so what you were talking about is the discernment about what you share, how you share, is part of what, for me, as I have gone through an awareness of my invisibility that I have chosen to put up years ago. I've done a lot of work with it, but visibility, and I see it in a lot of people. And the piece that helped me the most is when I understood first that I was becoming visible to me for me. And then how I share that in the world is a choice. Then it's discernment, like what I share, where I'm visible, where I choose to be private, and that I get to be, and I get to have that choice. So that's kind of, as you were talking about that, Robyn, I was thinking that for me is one of the things that Reiki has really helped me with, because invisibility, I would say, is there for people in so many ways for so many reasons. It can be our culturally created self, our age, our gender, our upbringing, our natural personality. And so I learned that there was a difference. And yes, there would be times I would still want the ability to say, yeah, I think I'm going to go invisible for a little while. But I know that that's there, and it's a choice of an energy, which is not very common that I think that way. But it moved out of protection into choice and self-awareness. And so when I started becoming more visible to myself, that's when I went, oh, that's what this is. And so I feel like that's what Reiki helped lift some of the inauthentic invisibility from me and showed me the visibility of me for me, so I could see me. And so I'm going to just go ahead and go into, since that's where the topic has taken us, I want to just talk a little bit about the how-to. So I think the first how-to in activating Reiki and self-Reiki, and you can just put your hands on your body now and even receive it if you can. It's okay if you don't, just let it wash over you. But just take a moment and breathe in. Just breathe in Reiki. And let it just fill you up for a moment. It's going to go all the way from your crown through the earth, all the way from the earth up through your crown, and just intend that's happening. We'll go into a deeper invocation in a little bit. And now, however you would want to, I'm going to beam it like this so that you can, it gives you a visibility of what I'm doing. I'm going to fill the room and the space. So it's just all Reiki that you engage with. So just sending Reiki Remember to breathe. So I'm doing all the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. And I've got both hands up because sometimes this is just audio for those of you listening. So what I'm really doing is just filling the space with Reiki. Now I'm going to have my hands towards me. So I'm just going to put them towards me, and that Reiki energy is flowing into me. And it's just filling my breath. That is an example of Reiki on the fly. So now the way I perceive that is I've activated me. I've stated that I want to entrain to a higher state of consciousness, which is what Reiki does and is. And I've also placed a field of light around me. So I can be in my authentic self. I can be visible around me and know that I have that energy also that's like a filter. So instead of the invisibility being my protection, I've now opened myself to myself first to be visible to me. And I have that field of Reiki light around me to make me comfortable to be in that fullness of showing myself. Sometimes I do those practices for a longer time. Like I might take a long time to get me there. Reiki's already there, and I just intended it on the fly. And let's say I couldn't do that. It would be really awkward. I'm in a place that like I can't be walking around putting my hands all over like that. I would just think it. So that's the on the fly version. So then what happens is Reiki energy entrains your consciousness to the next level. It's going to shift you, even if it takes a while. It's not always instant. It can even take days. So, it's not always instant. But that first step of visibility is for you. Where you share yourself and where you are public and where you are private also is something that the Reiki energy can help you discern. So where are you choosing to use your voice? Where do you decide not to? Which is different than being suppressed, right? It's different. Now it's your choosing. You've got discernment and you're choosing. And there's, sometimes it needs to be an instant thought. Sometimes, I'm one of those that I think of what I want to say later anyway. So, I have to kind of, it's like I don't always have that, like a quick thing to say back. So anyway, that topic of visibility, I see it as a practitioner, like a high percentage of people are learning how to be visible. And as a teacher, as a Reiki teacher. And when we teach, what's that? I think that first slide, Robyn, that you created was when I started all of this, I thought I was looking for God, which is still there. But what I really found out is that I was looking for me. And so this is a piece of it. And this is a piece of that authenticity and learning what that means. What does that mean? And today, what we were going to talk about is living authentically when you have life transitions. And we were talking about it because we feel like we talk about that a lot, but I think it's such a big time of life. I mean, it's collectively, globally, we're in transition from and the previous age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius. It's a really big shift in humanity and the globe. And, it's always interesting because I also know that, like, we think of humanity as being everything on the earth that affects everything, and, we're the center of it, but it's really everything that's here. Everything is shifting. So anyway, life transitions and how to use Reiki. And what are they? When you're in them, I'm in a life transition. I saw something the other day. It was on a billboard. I went to San Diego, and I grew up in Encinitas, California, and Leucadia. And there was a billboard in Leucadia. And Robyn, I shared it with you. I hope I get it right. Is clarity is the most valuable currency. Clarity of mind. I don't think I said it exactly the way it was written. It was written better than that. But it just is, as I've been listening around it, because it caught my attention. Like, what does that mean? And how are they speaking of it? And so I've realized, like, clarity, how it is so helpful when we know what we're doing and what's clear. And so in these life transitions, again, with that idea of endings and new beginnings, completions, and sometimes you're not in an ending or a new beginning. You're right in the middle of it. And so again, it's a cycle. And so it varies for everybody. But even at that, we have personal changes that occur, and how do we navigate through them? Some of the things I've heard in this community of life transitions is, life and health, and end of life transitions. So that is here and present, and with loved ones and animals, that's a life transition. Job transitions. Sometimes those are sudden, sometimes they're chosen, sometimes they're, unexpected. So, like with my husband retiring, we've always known he was going to, but it was a sudden decision. So it's a sudden, like, okay, now we're in life transition, and it's great. We're in a good position for it. Like I say, it's not super challenging yet, or maybe, but at this point it's not. It's actually nice so far. But birth is another one, our big life changes, even changes of an age. Saturn returns, they always bring transitions, like your late 20s to early 30s, 2.5 year period, and then in your late 50s to early 60s, another 2.5 year period, and then in your 80s is another one every 28 years. Those always bring out life changes. And often the astrological changes will show you a beginning, middle, and end of a transition. So even though we're not astrologers, so I can't speak more to it than that, but that is sometimes, that's how, for me, it's relevant, as I can see the timing of transitions, and maybe the viewpoint of what it is, so I have more clarity. So you guys, we all know what they are, I think, without too much definition of what is a life transition. And so what I'd like to talk about is the how to use Reiki when you're in it. And again, even just that simple action that I just did, and I'll move into I receive and let the energy come in. I just receive the energy and I start there. And I do it simply, and I do it for lengths of time, just depending on where I'm at in the moment, and how much time. I like to do it for longer. And then if I don't, it's not, I'm not in a place to do that, I know that I can do just as quickly as we just did here and move into it because it brings clarity. Reiki absolutely brings clarity. It lets go of the places where we're blocked, limited, resistant. And it also then brings in self-awareness. Would be first, your ability to hear you is the next piece, to see you and to hear you. And so your clarity then comes from that point. And a lot of times it's too having an awareness that that's what you're asking for. And then other times, I don't know, because if I was clearer, I didn't need to ask for clarity. So a lot of times I don't know what I'm trying to get clear about. So that's why I just receive. And then the answers start to come, and they come through insight, inspiration, solution. And they may not seem related, but suddenly you have more clarity about your movement through your transition. Reiki brings balance. I've had a couple sessions recently that were fascinating around this subject of one of them was clarity. And we were looking at, again, this person's unique path from the eagle vision, self vision, and mouse vision. And that's a journey on our YouTube channel. So anyway, we were seeing her path from way above, right from here, and then from mouse vision. And it showed, from her perspective, it was like shining a pretty good size flashlight. And so her vision went that far. It was on her path, like that far. Then it went up to the eagle vision and showed that, on the big path, that was like, an inch from up above. And then she went to mouse vision, and the whole light was the entire universe. And so I was like, that is so good. Like, oh. And the other piece of it was, through it all, she was still in the light. She was just following the light. Because sometimes it's all you know to do. Take the lights that way, I'll just go there. So that's why I go into, I will just receive. There was one other one. I'm trying to call it up. It's leaving my mind, that was like this too. Anyway, it'll come back to me. So it all has to do with just navigating, and Reiki tries to help us make it simple. It doesn't mean life is simple or not challenging, or that you have feelings. You're still going to be human and still have the human experience of your feelings and everything that goes with being human. So from the very challenging times to the kind of neutral times to the really, sometimes even to the point of being overwhelming, so many things are happening and great, so it can be that too. But most of all, as you are going through life transitions, and I have to think that the way the conversation went to visibility, that's a really important piece, is becoming visible to you so you can hear you. And that's what's going to help you have the clarity in your life transitions, personal changes. Again, you might be in, right in the middle of everything, and it doesn't feel like a transition, but